on our third edition of the National Olympic Committee online conference. This is a series of conferences that we have, or rather the National Olympic Committee is conducting so that we are able to educate ourselves during this live and during this time of the COVID-19 pandemic. Remember last week, we did host our first one on Thursday when we were tackling with the emotional intelligence. And on Thursday, we did cover the maintaining fitness through the pandemic. And today's topic is another hot topic. It is a home athlete nutrition plan. What exactly do our sportsmen and women need to do in terms of nutrition so that they can maintain the form that they need to be, or to maintain the body that they need to maintain before we resume to normal? Welcome every person who is joining us today. My name is Wanjiko Mwenda. I will be your moderator for this live conference for the next 1 hour or so. And of course, tackling this big topic, I am joined by my panelists today. I am joined by 2 athletes and 2 nutritionists. I am joined by Geoffrey Kamworor, who doesn't need any introduction to you, by the way. Geoffrey Kamworor is a 3 times world half marathon champion, a 2 times world cross-country champion in the senior category. He's also a silver medalist in the 10,000 meters World Athletics Championships back in 2015, as well as the New York Marathon winner 2019. Geoffrey, can you hear me? Kamworor? Welcome on board, Kamworor. It's good to have you.
Yes, thank you.
All right, he's also joined by our boxer. She is Elizabeth Ondiego, the only lady boxer who has represented Kenya in the Olympics, having featured in the 2012 edition. She's also represented this country in the World Championships in 2010 in Barbados, and the World Championships as well in 2010 and 2012. She's also represented Kenya in the Commonwealth Games in 2014 and 2018, not forgetting the Africa Championships that she has taken part in. And recently, she captained Team Kenya during the Olympics qualifiers in Senegal. Elizabeth, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Wanjiko.
Thank you so much for joining us today. And then now I introduce to you the panelists, the nutritionists that I have on board. I'm joined by Mercy Barwecho. She is the Deputy Chief Nutrition Officer at the Kenyatta National Hospital. She's also a licensed nutritionist and dietitian with 25 years of practice. She's registered with the Kenya Nutritionist and Dietitians Institute, and she has specified in sports nutrition and nutrition policy formulation. Mercy, how are you doing?
Fine, thank you. How are you, listeners?
And very good to have you today. Thank you for joining us. And finally, I do have Eric Kihugwa, who is a clinical nutrition practitioner with more than 10 years of diverse experience in the fields of clinical and holistic nutrition. He serves as a clinical dietitian at the Diet Advisory Clinic at the Kenyatta National Hospital, and he's a dietitian for inpatient and outpatient nutrition services at the Nairobi Hospital. Eric, can you hear us?
Yes, Wanjiko, I can do.
Thank you so much as well for joining us today, all of you. Let's now delve into this topic, the hot topic of the day, the home athlete nutrition plan. And just for the person who is viewing today, just to bring this down, it is more or less into the sports nutrition, and simply put as information and advice about how nutrition can help to optimize one's performance. I think my first question will go to Geoffrey Kamworor. Kamworor?
Yes.
How have you been forced to adjust to your nutritional plan now that we are out of active competition? Since we were all banned from competing, you just told us that you were sent away from Qatar's camp. So how have you been adjusting when it comes to nutritional plans?
Thank you very much. I think for me, it's unfortunate that the pandemic came across and we had to break away from camps where we have used to a sort of type of nutrition diet. But here right at home, for me, I'm continuing with my training. I'm doing everything normal. So the training is not so much intense, but I'm training. And I'm serving my diet to make sure that I stay fit and maintain my fitness towards the future. So to me, I have a plan for my diet. Like every morning, I make sure that I take a balanced diet. Yes.
All right. Will you just simply tell us, just simply telling us what is entailed in your morning diet, especially in your breakfast? What do you take to maintain your nutritional form?
Normally, as you are aware that the normal breakfast in Kenya is tea. That's what you must take. I normally take tea with sweet potatoes and sometimes pieces of fruits, either a banana, an orange, or a mango. That's maybe for maybe on Monday. For Tuesday, as I've said that we are used to take tea, I take my tea, bread, and egg, and also a piece of a fruit. The other day I can take tea, chapati, and then a fruit. I do make sure that I take a balanced diet.
All
Yes.
right. All right. Thank you so much. And maybe before we talk to Elizabeth, how has your schedule been affected whatsoever when it comes to food? Because, you know, when you're in Kaptagat, at least there is a chef that I actually have met who makes sure that all athletes are in the right direction when it comes to food. But now that you're at home, do you feel sometimes you're tempted to take something that you're not supposed to take because maybe you're there with the children and then you find yourself taking maybe a biscuit or something?
I think my diet is not so affected because as I've said that I'm continuing training, so my diet is not so much affected. It's only that we are not I'm not doing an intense training, so that's why I'm taking a balanced breakfast. Maybe like the case in Kaptagat where we do a lot of intense training, so we normally take also a balanced diet. We normally take tea, bread, and egg, fruits, sometimes porridge. But for now, I can just take the light of it as long as it's a balanced diet.
Okay. All right. Elizabeth, will you just explain to us how you have been forced to adjust to your nutritional plan as well? Has anything of yours changed or you're still on course?
Okay, due to this COVID-19, things have changed. For me, I can say I've not like been following on my diet that much. Okay, because we are not like training for anything. So I can say I try as much as possible to be just to eat, but not to follow exactly nutrition. So because most of the time, even for now, we are like not working, but we are working out just to keep fit. So the more I can say is that we're just trying to hold on and see if things will change there on, but we're just keeping active. I know things will work out. So we're just trying to limit ourselves. I know the temptation are there, lack of money. So we're just trying hard so that we just hang on there.
All right, before we even tackle on how the economy has affected this part of nutrition, maybe quickly before we introduce, we bring in Eric and Mercy, what have you been eating that is not right?
Okay, for me, I've been like eating junks, which are not like healthy. You know, having kids around, you have like also to eat with them some cakes now sometimes, but not like too much. Yeah, but not like, I'm not like strictly following a diet. I'll just like eat anything for now, but I'm working out. Yeah,
All
it's just
right.
to keep on, yeah, just keep on my weight. Yeah.
Okay, this is a point I bring Eric on board because like you've had, there are two different scenarios. Kamarori is really trying to keep at it. Elizabeth is also working out but can take cake here and there. So how important is nutrition for an elite sportsman or woman?
Well, nutrition is very vital in the essence of its role in facilitating energy for performance. And now for the two scenarios that have been put across, you realize that for Geoffrey, he's done modestly done moderation based on the reduction in training needs, because as of now, you may not really project a competition. Now, where there is a gap is in the line of Elizabeth, because McHugh now, the risk at hand is she's likely to gain extra weight now, especially now coming in from the junk she's mentioned, which now eventually, although she may now, if she was to go now in scale, she may appear to have maybe maintained the weight, but the unfortunate is there will be a shift in the compartment, that there will be an increase in the fat count, and there will be a drop in the water content when you do now the body, the body composition analysis. So eventually, at the time of now regaining active training, she may really have to work relatively harder to go to where she was before COVID. And therefore now, meaning if there was to be any performance ahead, it has to be nearly extended so that now she can be fit enough for that. But for Geoffrey, I think catch up is much easier compared to our friend Elizabeth. Yeah, so nutrition. Yeah.
Now go ahead, Eric.
Oh yeah, so you'll find that making modest changes, because given that there is not any activity or training ahead, is essential, so that now catch up becomes easier. Of course, yes, they need to keep on eating, but now let friends not be to become the hitch to our performance post-COVID. Because you see now also we need to have you guys still perform to your optimum come the time when you are needed to. So it now calls for the element of discipline in adhering to what has been the norm to see you get to that level. Yes.
All right, thank you so much, Eric. And at least Elizabeth is here. She will gain, she will get so much of information from you. Don't lose hope, Elizabeth. We still know that you're the captain for the hit squad. You're still doing a good job. This is a point I bring in Mercy. Mercy, with the current change of plan for every sportsman and women, what is the first thing they need to do to adjust to this current situation? We have not been in this situation before. We have not suffered a pandemic before, or rather this generation hasn't. But how do we adjust to it for sportsmen and women in terms of nutrition?
Okay, thank you so much. The first thing they need to do is to have good nutrition practices in terms of their eating habits. Like they need not to skip their breakfast, they need not to skip their lunch, they need not to skip their supper, especially now that they know they are doing not much as they used to do when they are in the field. So they need to have their meals taken every day and also at the times that they used to do. The other thing also, because of the change of COVID, they need to limit their highly concentrated sugars in terms of sugar. They need to limit their salt intake. They need to really take the high fiber diet, that is a lot of vegetables, a lot of fruits, compared to just eating a lot of junk, especially for Elizabeth now. And the important thing also, because of this change, they need to do the locally available foods. Economic-wise, everyone is affected, but they need to use the locally available fruits and vegetables, and also the fruits. Yes.
All right, thank you, Mercy. I think I go back to Kamoror. Geoffrey, with this cessation of movement, now that there are some places that we cannot reach, maybe that has affected also the supplies of certain foods that you usually eat when you're in the top competition. Have you had this kind of a problem? Are there some of the foods that you are missing because of this kind of lack of movement that we are facing right now?
Yes, now that there is a lack of movement around, so when I'm done with my training mostly, I do spend most of my time at the farm, whereby I keep dairy animals. So I get milk easily. I keep also poultry, so I get eggs. I plant vegetables and some sort of other plants. So I get them from the farm. So most of my foods I'm getting for myself from my farm. So unless like in the side of fruits, where I have to rush and buy them in the market or supermarket. But that's a bit easy because it's just a small task for me. Just rushing to the supermarket, pick some fruits, and come back home. So for me to maintain, to get those stuff is really easy. Yeah.
All right, a good idea there that you keep them in your farm, so it's a bit easy. But I want to hear from Elizabeth. What is your take on that? Are there some things that their supply has really gone down and you're struggling to get them, or even in terms of the economy that has affected the way things flow in terms of finances and reach of supply?
All right. So what I can say is that okay, at least we're like in town, like me, we are like financially affected. We have no access to other foods like say fish and chicken. Also, they are like so expensive. So it's kind of hard for us to get them. So we can just we try and just eat a normal food that we can afford for now, because we don't know about tomorrow. So we just deal with what we have. So it has like really affected us.
All right. Will you just describe to me maybe what, for example, what you just had for lunch? Will you just describe for me what it was, what did it entail?
Okay, I ate for lunch today. I ate ugali and a little bit of veggies and some beef.
And beef. Okay.
Yeah.
Eric, listening to what Kamaror and Elizabeth are talking about, maybe you just break it down, the general nutrition advice that you will give in different times of the preparation cycle. But before we talk about the cycle, which is pre-competition, during competition, and after competition, what advice will you tell them in regards to what they already have on the table right now?
Well, I guess, I mean, in the normal circumstances, you realize that there is the aspect during training, there is sufficient energy requirement such that the athlete may have sufficient energy for performance. And this therefore requires that as part of that advice is you have regular meals, the three main courses, breakfast, lunch, and supper. But in between, you require a snacks maybe around 10 o'clock or 4 p.m. And even some may require by bedtime, so that now you facilitate what we call glycogen loading. So that now this glycogen is what is very essential in sustaining performance for events that require endurance. Now, in this regard, therefore, it requires that one, even if it means now also alarming him or herself to keep them on track in terms of meal timings, so that now they allow for achieving adequate calorie intake for tissue repair and maintenance, but besides that also for endurance. So a carbohydrate is a necessity for purposes of fueling the body, which means whole grain carbohydrates from, like say, maize flour from the portion meal, not the sifted alternatives. Doma, ngwashe, muhogo, matoke, and related form the main basis for energy, because they also, upon digestion, they digest slowly, so an athlete may feel energized longer. Now, proteins come in also very essential, but besides that, before that, we realize that enough carbohydrates also allow for benefiting from the protein alternatives that you'll actually put on board, because you realize if you eliminate carbohydrates or if you bring it in small amounts, the body will resort to using the protein to convert it to form glucose for basic survival. So in this case, carbohydrates form the main thing in terms of a person's energy source. Now, on the protein category, any be plant or animal, we are open to each alternative, and therefore variety is essential in this regard, so that now it allows for one, averting the risk of boredom, but also each particular protein category has got varying nutritional benefit. So whatever may be prevalent in beef may be missing out in chicken. So you're able to like capture the diverse nutrient supply from this range of alternatives in terms of protein. So, but for the core reason of facilitating for tear and repair, or also muscle buildup. Now, the category third on board is the fruits and vegetables for the purpose of vitamins and minerals, which also are essential in endurance in terms of energy metabolism or performance. So variety is also an essentiality in those choices when it comes to what an individual has to have access to. Now, concerning the COVID incident, you realize that yes, access is a threat in helping even the common mwananchi be able to realize the nutritional security. But what you're also now looking forward is if the situation can be contained to the earliest so that now we can resume normalcy. But besides that also, is the traders also need to be considered enough so that also they don't more or less adjust their margins to accommodate their interests while also now compromising on the nutritional security of the athletes and also even the society at large.
All right, so we are telling us of what to do pre and even after, and I like the progress of it. I think this is a point where I'm going to bring in Mercy. Mercy, in the process of preparation for competition, because when I look at Kamoror or even Elizabeth, there is that point of where they go for the pre-training, and sometimes it can take months. You can be preparing for a competition for 3 months or something. How are they supposed to be eating at that particular time? And during that preparation, does the diet also change during the main competition, or how does it go about, Nancy?
Okay, thank you for that question. During preparation, this is the time, as my colleague has said, this is the time that the athletes need to do glycogen stores. And this is the time actually they need to eat to meet their training requirements. At the training level, that's where always nutritionists is being engaged so that they can monitor what they are eating. They can monitor how much the athletes are eating, and also they can monitor or give advice on how to adjust what they are eating. During training also, they need to take a balanced meal in terms of what my colleague has said, the carbohydrates, the proteins, but at certain amounts that they need as per their nutritional status in terms of weight and in terms of also the severity of the training that they are going through. Yes.
All right. And then after the competition, what advice do you give them? Because like when someone is done with a marathon, someone like Kamoror there, when he finished the New York Marathon last year and when he won, then does the diet now change a little bit, maybe to help him regain the muscles or something that maybe he will have used too much during the competition, the preparation and during the competition itself?
Exactly. After the competition, actually the first 30 minutes, an athlete is supposed to take something to prevent like the stores that is to be utilized. So it is important for an athlete to take something immediately, but mostly in practice, you see that most athletes, they are not able to take anything at that time. Probably Kaboron will give us the practice of what he has been doing, but you need to take, we need also to take a lot of, we need to take a balanced meal, especially the whole meals, especially at that time after the competition.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mercy. Kamoror, Mercy says that you need to eat a balanced diet after every competition that you take part in. And let me just take one question. And actually, every viewer, if you have a question for any of the panelists, feel free to write to us in this chat, on our Facebook chat. You can send me the questions. I do have Emily, and the question is for Kamoror. She's asking, do you adjust your diet accordingly to your training? For example, if you're planning for a long run, do you take extra fuel to, extra food to fuel you? Is there a difference between you preparing for the track event and the marathon event in terms of your diet?
Normally, when I'm preparing for a competition or a training, I do only make sure that I take a balanced diet, be it to make sure it's proteins, it's vitamins, carbohydrates, as long as it's balanced. That's what normally I do take. Like the case where I'm preparing to go for a long run, I do normally take a lot of fluids like water, tea, yes, any sort of fluids, milk, yeah. So to me, I make sure that I take a balanced diet before every training. But
Right.
I don't have any specific meal that I've said that I have to take before a training or before a long run. As long as it's a balanced, it's okay with me. Yeah.
All right. And before I go to Elizabeth, when you're training for a marathon, does your diet change a little bit as compared to when you were training for the track event? Kamoror.
Sorry?
Just a quick one. When you're training for a marathon, like when you're going to New York last year, was your diet a little bit different as compared to when you're training for a track and field event?
No, not normally. My diet is all the same. Whether I'm training for a marathon or training for a track season, because at long haul you are doing an intense training. Either you are preparing for a track session, there is that intense training. So it might be it might not be so intense, but it's a strong one. So I don't know have specific diet for marathon or track season. It's always the same.
Okay. Thank you, Kamoror. I do have a message from Francis Rugoi. He says, for nutrition during the pandemic, it's almost impossible for more than 60% of sports persons to get a balanced diet. What are the effects after the pandemic, since mostly it's only carbohydrates available for them? That is a massive will be coming in to answer that question in a bit. But let me get Elizabeth on this one. During this particular time, Elizabeth, do you feel like Rugoi is saying, the most things that are available are carbohydrates for you?
Hello?
Yes, Elizabeth, can you hear me?
Okay, repeat the question.
I'm saying, just like Rugoi is saying here, he says during this pandemic time, it is very hard to get a balanced diet out there. And you had mentioned that actually, but do you feel like the most available foods that are readily available are carbohydrates?
Yeah, I can say the most, that's like affordable foods are kind of more of carbohydrates, but kind of proteins, I can say something like beans and greens, they're also there. So, but you can't like eat all the time. You eat beans, you eat greens. You have like two alternate. Well, I can say it's affecting us, the athletes, because we can't like access that for now. And the other thing is that we are like off competition. So for now, we just like take more so like 3 meals a day. But while in competition, we like take like 6 meals in a day. So
Okay.
for now, it's kind of different because we don't know when is our next competition. So we're just hanging on with what we have. We're just like surviving.
Okay, and I believe Eric will come and tell us in between this conversation on how to deal with your diet in a moment when you're not sure of a competition. But Mercy, in regards to the presentation that you're supposed to show us in a bit, what will you say are the effects of, because of these epidemics, the effects of eating too much carbohydrates for them as you bring in your presentation?
Okay, thank you so much. The effects of taking more carbohydrates, it's that our athletes will gain weight in terms of they will gain a lot of weight, and also you will find that when it comes to the time that they need to go back to training, it will become they'll become a bit sluggish in terms of, because their body has gotten used to having taking a lot of food. So it is important for them to take minimum carbohydrate, and especially the more healthier bits of it. Yes.
Right, and it's in this point where I want to give you the platform to give us the presentation of healthy eating, the diet for a normal sports person, a sportsman or woman, as they take this time of competition, just basically in general, what they're supposed to be doing, Mercy.
Sorry?
This is the point I want to bring you on board so that we can have that presentation of
The presentation.
Yeah, just generally telling the sportsmen and women basically what they're supposed to be doing. But as Mercy tries to get that presentation, Eric. Yes, let me give you the time to do that. Eric, maybe you can bring us on board as we wait for Mercy. When the athletes are training without a competition in mind, just like Elizabeth and Kamoror are doing, they're just training day in, day out, but with no competition in mind because of the current situation. So with the lack of the competition, what should their nutrition plan look like without a clear or certain goal in mind?
Thank you. I think the core focus for every athlete is, like, say, aiming for maintenance of their nutritional status. So like in this case, a basic marker, though, as in just blanketly, we do, like, say, the body mass index. Maintenance of that will require that, as in, they maintain 3 regular meals across the day. But now, areas of interest in the same is the aspect of minimal fat in their cooking, because you see now, you may also eat healthy, though now the method of preparation of that particular food, if it's rich in oil or fat, also predisposes you to weight gain. So it's aiming for, as in maintaining their schedule of training just for maintenance, but also in terms of their meals, 3 regular meals across the day, but now quality-wise in terms of minimal salting, sugar, and fat. So that in this case, it allows for maintenance. Otherwise, because of reduced intensity, weight gain is the likely risk. Now, just as a top up on what my colleague had mentioned concerning the overindulgence in carbohydrates, the risk is metabolic conditions like, say, diabetes also are likely to be encountered in such populations if there is overindulgence in carbohydrates, because also they trigger insulin insensitivity, which eventually now may manifest as diabetes, or maybe even fatty liver disease, which also now a problem when there is oversubscription of fatty other carbohydrate foods of that nature, as in volumes beyond what the athlete is spending as pertains to training.
All right, thank you so much, Eric, for that. I see Mercy, you're getting ready. Mercy?
Yes. Yes, I am.
All right.
Yes.
And as you take us to that presentation, I do have on Facebook Live, Judy Vereso asking, first of all, she tells you people that is a very informative discussion. Thank you very much. And to Elizabeth and Jeffrey, what is their greatest concern at this time? I will give them their time to answer that. But Mercy, as you take on to this presentation, her question is, to the nutritionists, can athletes include dietary supplements when they have no access to organic foods? That's a very sensitive question. Maybe you'll be telling us later.
Okay, fine. Thank you. I hope you are seeing my presentation.
Yes, I do. We do.
Okay. Yes. We are going to talk about sports nutrition in COVID-19 times. And I'm going to talk in December 2019 this year, the first case of a new coronavirus was reported in China, and it has spread all over the world. And consequently, lockdown is a vast world. The WHO declared the COVID-19 outbreak a pandemic, and economies have been shut down. Working at home and social distancing are applicable antidote to the pandemic so that we don't spread. And I will say that the nutrition goals to sports women and men is that they need to stay physically fit. As Cameron has said, that is still training. And I believe also Elizabeth is training in some way. Also, another goal is that it improves the immune system against COVID-19 related ailments. And also the other goal for an athlete is that they need to recover from existing injuries, especially those who have injuries. This is the time they are recovering. And also we need all of us to keep our mental health to the par, because this is the first time we are having lockdowns in Kenya and probably in the world. Some countries probably they had experienced this, but for us it's a new thing. So what is our interventions? Our interventions are, we need to keep healthy eating habits. Eating habits in terms of, if you have been taking your 3 meals a day, you take those 3 meals a day. But now depending, what exactly are you eating? If it is, we are going to look at it more. Also, we need to keep free from infections. That's why we need to follow the WHO and Ministry of Health guidelines in terms of staying free of COVID-19. And also we need to do utility of available dietary regimes. That one we are going to expound on it. So what is the anatomy of the public health interventions? We are talking about the environment is contrary to the sports, because we are told lockdowns and sports is a social event. And we also the issue of home confinements. There's also reduced activity even to our athletes. Eating habits are random, and also our dietary regimes are uncontrolled. So what are the consequences to sports? This is probably we tie down with the question that had been asked earlier. So you will experience a lot of weight gain because of less activity. There will be also also because of increased food intake. We also have time. We are at home, so it is easier for us to overeat. And also there's a psychological distress and also improper food utilization. Also, there's also immune system purge, that is immune system which is not built up, it is prone to infections, and also psychosocial distress, and also inactivity to body adaptation or slackness, because we are not doing much, especially to the athletes. So what are the potential challenges? We see that online shopping of groceries and other recipes becomes the in thing of the day. There's also a lot of junk food consumption. We have a lot of unplanned meals, and also lifestyle changes, and also probably our immune system enhancement during this COVID-19. So how are we going to enhance our immune system? So one of the things that we need to do is eat healthy diet or balanced diet over time, so that it helps strengthen our immune system. We need also to build good nutritional foundation, that is having a balanced diet. We have also to take high nutrient foods containing a lot of antioxidants and also anti-inflammatory compounds like vitamins and minerals to build up strong immune system. Also, we need to have habits of doing food diversification. Diversifying means taking variety of foods, so that we don't eat ugali today, ugali tomorrow, ugali the coming day. We can eat other foods that are available within our country. So I would say that sports nutrition is applicable of nutrition knowledge to our practice to daily eating pattern. It is also focused on providing and fueling for physical activity. We need also to facilitate and repair and rebuild our process following hard work, and also optimizing athletic performance in competitive events, or especially now that we are home, how we're going to optimize our nutrition in terms of to gear it out with the less activity that we are doing. Also, we need also to promote overall health and wellness. So why is nutrition important? I think that question had been answered very well by my colleague. We need to preserve and build muscles. We need to maintain healthy bones. We need to maximize oxygen transport and use. And also good nutrition will repair existing cells and create new tissues. It also maintains optimal fluid and electrolyte balance and also provide energy. So I will urge our athletes who are listening right now to do assessments in terms of monitoring their weights and also monitoring their diets, what they are exactly eating. So performance influencing factors, one of it is nutrition. The other one is the athletic traits that within the, like the oxygen uptake, they need the cardiac output and also relative proportion of the fast and slow fiber in the skeletal muscles, and also training and conditioning, and genetic. Genetic plays a very big role in this. So what is sports nutrition response during this COVID-19 pandemic? I would say that the nutrition formula is that we take health food choices. Instead of eating junk food, instead of eating white or refined foods, you can take whole meal. We can take also adequate fueling. We can hydrate, taking a lot of fluids in a day. And also we need also to understand what is in our supplements, as per what Wanjiko had posed the question about supplementation. I think one of the listeners has posed that question. So how are we going to plan our nutritious meal? If you look at this diagram, we look at there's carbohydrates, there's protein, and there's healthy fats. Also there's fruits. So if you pick one from each category, every time you are eating, it becomes easier for all of us. Instead of buying sausages or selling eggs to buy sausages, why don't you eat that sausage and also use the other money that you are getting to buy the things that you don't have? We can also utilize the milk that you have around. And also, as what Kamorora said, that most of his diet is locally available. So let's utilize what is locally available. So we call this food pyramid. It helps us to know which category of food and what to take at what point. At every time you are taking, you need to pick one in each category. Like when it's a fruit and a vegetable, pick one from that category. If it's a whole fruit, like what Kamorora said, the sweet potatoes, you can pick there, another one. You can utilize your milk and the dairy products, the meat, the fish, the eggs for your proteins. You can also use the oils, especially the good oils. You can use the olive oil, you can use the avocados, even the nuts that we are using, the sunflower oils. It can be well with us and it gives you the health options. So what is the work of the energy? Energy is the ability to perform. And actually it is the fuel that my colleague has said about that. And also calories comes from the carbohydrate that you take. You know, we've been talking about calories. What is the source of calories? It is the carbohydrate that we take. By the end of it, we getting calories from there. There's protein and there's also fats. So in carbohydrates, they are stored in the muscles, as glycogen in the muscles. And then it is the preferred source of energy. They are broken rapidly down, and it is important in maximal exercise. So carbohydrate also is the power muscles contraction. It helps in the contraction of the power muscles. It's also fuel for them. It's the fuel for the brain, and it aids in fat metabolism. It also acts as a protein sparing effect, meaning it allows protein to be used for tissue for maintenance and repair versus energy. So sometimes our practice has been, we don't eat carbohydrates, but we want to eat protein. But the body will convert that protein to provide energy because it is the power, it's the source of energy. It's the preferred source of energy, which is carbohydrates. So we have non-essential nutrients, which is human body can make, like sugar. There's simple sugars and complex carbohydrates. And it's also the major source of fuel for exercising. So I'm trying to rush through. I hope you are with me.
Yes, we are.
Yes, yes. So the proteins, the role of proteins in the body, it's for the tissue maintenance, the tissue repair, for the tissue growth, and also building and maintaining the muscles. And also, actually, to a lesser degree, it's used as a source of energy. So what is our daily, okay, I'm losing now. Okay, what is the role of the protein? Our daily protein requirement should be 0.8 grams, especially now that we are not practicing anything, between 0.8 to 1 gram per kg body weight. But when we resume our training as athletes, we'll probably step it up to compensate for the energy that you are using. How can I meet my protein needs? Food is the best source of protein, and high protein foods include the meat, the dairy products, the nuts, the meats. Most people would normally tend to eat more of the protein than the recommended amount of the protein. I think Elizabeth had talked of getting the beans and legumes, generally the legumes, the beans family. It is the best way of eating rather than eating meat every day. Probably in a week, we need to take like 4 times meat, like 4 times in a week, especially now that we are less active right now. And most of the time we use the nuts, we use the beans, we use the dairy products. So if you look at that table, that's the protein content of commonly consumed foods. And if you look at, if you say that we need to take 0.1 gram of protein per kg body weight, what are we saying? If you are 60 grams of protein, you are 60 kg or 50 kg as an athlete, you take 50 multiplied by 1, which means you need only 50 grams of protein in a day. And how are you going to get that 50 grams in a day? If you take a chicken breast, that will give you around 25 grams of protein. If you take a broiled fish, that gives you another 20. And you've taken probably lunch, you've taken chicken breast, and dinner you've taken fish, that's already 45 grams of protein. And we said if you're 50 kg, you'll only need 50 grams of protein. If in the morning probably you took an egg, that's another 7 grams of protein. If you took a half cup of nuts or a legume or half cup of a legume, that gives you around 7 grams of protein or around 5 grams for the nuts. So by the end of it, it's easy to work out on what you are eating, especially now that with the help of the nutritionists, it will help you to get how much you are supposed to take in a day. So what are healthy fats? Healthy fats is a type of a nutrient. Body needs some of the fat for energy and to absorb vitamins. For you to absorb your vitamins, you need fats. And also it needs to protect your heart and your brain health. So what are the good sources? You can take something like peanut butter, avocados, the nuts, the peanut butter. In a day, instead of spreading your bread with unhealthy options, you can use a peanut butter. You can also use fish oils. You can also use the soy milk, the sunflower, and the pumpkin seeds, especially for us Africans. Of late, we've actually started taking the pumpkin seeds. It's very good source of zinc. So it is important when you are also preparing pumpkins, you don't throw the seeds. You can actually fry those seeds, and it's a good source of a protein, it's good source of a fat, and also it's a good source of zinc. So how can we reduce the fat intake in our daily foods? Instead of taking whole milk, you can take skim milk. Or even if whole milk is what you have, you can boil your milk, then we'll let it settle. The cream which comes up, you remove it. So you can also, instead of using things like butter and margarine, you can use the better options, the jam, the yogurt, and other, or like also olive oil. Instead of eating chicken with the skin, you can remove that skin. And instead of frying, you can probably boil your meats so that you reduce the fat intake in your meats. So what should you do consume before training? This is one of the questions that was asked. What can I consume before training or a competition? You need to take a balanced meal, probably 1 to 2 hours before a training. You need, you do not load up on huge meals, that is before a competition, and also meals that do not cause the stomach distress or gives you energy. Gives you energy, yes. Also, you need to maintain good blood sugar so that you don't have sticks when you are competing. So what is the prevent? Also the prevent meal, you can also, it helps restore the suboptimal glycogen stores, which is a critical for prolonged periods of the exercises. It's also high in carbohydrates, which are non-greasy and also which are readily absorbed, digestible. We don't want to eat things that will make you feel uncomfortable. And also we need to limit the fatty foods as they delay the emptying time and also takes long to be digested. So this is an example of a meal plan. You can use a lean meat. You can use a sweet potato, which is a medium size. You can take vegetables, which is used by, you can use also an olive oil or even a piece of fruit. Some people even use cheese and also mixed nuts. So if you look at that table, it gives you what should I take a prevent, like 1 hour before an event. Mostly you need to take something light and something that will not make you feel a bit full. Like you can take a banana. Sometimes people take sport drinks when it's available, but Kenya, it's very rare for us, and at the market currently, sports drinks are very rare to get. So also you can get like baked potatoes, the cereals, the low-fat milk. You can eat oatmeal. You can also use yogurt, pancakes, or fruit juices. When you have 4 or more hours, this is the time now you need to eat a complete meal, something which will be easily digested, like spaghetti with probably meat sauce, chicken grilled, rice. You can use even fruits and fruit juices or even slices of wholemeal bread. So what do we use during training or competition? Depend upon length of the workouts and athlete's preference. Generally, we recommend a sports drink. Excuse me.
All right, Mercy, we'll take a break there. Give Mercy some time to breathe in. She has really given us quite informative pointers there. I think from what she's saying, Jeffrey and Elizabeth, she has told us, I think the key thing that I take home today is a food diversification. Like you can take different healthy foods, is what she has told us in her presentation. Just not focus on one side of food, not too much of carbohydrates, not too much of proteins, because even the proteins will be, the body will change them into energy giving or carbohydrates kind of. That's what she said. I think Carol, it has been Mercy, I'm going to give you some time to wait. Let's just take in Kamoror. Kamoror, it has been very informative there. More or less the things that you're taught by your handlers. Kamoror, has that been very informative for you? Kamoror, yes. Go ahead, Kamoror.
Come again?
I'm saying it has been quite an informative piece there from Mercy, and more or less what you usually taught by your handlers. So far, she's talked about the diversification of foods, which you're already doing very well. You know how to do your balanced diet. But what is your take? What have you gotten, like, has been very informative from Mercy so far?
I want to say that I've learned a lot from Mercy, and it's great. It has been a nice session to learn a lot. So on my side, I've seen that I'm trying a lot. So what I've gotten from Mercy is that I'll just adjust or put it into practice. Because what he has taught is really important to athletes and to sports women, and generally to a healthy life,
Yeah.
to anyone. It's not only the athletes, but to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I've learned a lot from him, and I'm so grateful. It's a nice session.
Don't go yet. I haven't released you yet. Don't go yet.
Yes, I know. Yes, I'm enjoying the session, I mean.
Thank you.
Yes.
Where is Diego? Elizabeth? Elizabeth, I will still get her there. But moving on, Eric, I think Mercy, as she takes a break still, maybe you can give us some of the few things that people who want to remain fit but are not elite sportsmen and women during this COVID-19 pandemic. How are we supposed to, just generally, how are we supposed to watch our diet? This is not for the elite athletes. It's for general people like me.
Okay, well, to eat healthy in the first place, also you need to know what's your nutrition status to begin with, so that now from there, you'll get to now to become objective in the journey towards eating healthy, which now may entail that one has to change his shopping or his or her shopping to mean if you don't know where the Gikomba is, this is now the time to also now do local tourism to shop right. Otherwise, you'll find that if you shop mainstream, obviously you're likely to be exposed to high risk choices, which now may tend to derail your interest in eating healthy. So the focus is consumption of whole grain carbohydrates, which means other than doing the sifted flours or maybe white rice and related, you'd rather do brown rice and also now search for like a whole grain cereal, freshly ground maize flour from the posho mill, other than now doing the packaged alternatives. Now, number two is on your shopping basket, ensure there is plenty of vegetables to facilitate in the roughage, which also now are very essential in boosting immunity, which is also a crucial entity to survive also through the COVID. Should possibly it come your way, it should find you with an established immunity. Not that now you want to establish an immunity in the problem, because you see now the challenges in the care may actually tend to derail your success. I mean, for you to like come into contact with the same. So plenty of vegetables, which means now like in a plain serving context, half of your plate should be served vegetables. But you see now in most households, you realize maybe people do 2 or 3 teaspoons or so. Look at even around in the restaurants, a teaspoon of cabbage, but now much of what remains on the plate is, the carbohydrates and maybe the meats, which is actually contrary to healthy eating. So as I also mentioned earlier, this discipline to execute those changes is very crucial, so that now you actually can be a model in the household or maybe community at large. So fruits and vegetables also come in on board, and of course with emphasis on the word of variety, so that you realize individual fruits have got varying nutritional compositions. So if you are to do independent alternatives, like say banana, maybe because from your originality, that's what is predominant, appreciate the fact that consuming the other alternatives is essential to be able to capture what may be missing in the mainstream choices that one has had access to over time. And then, of course, hydration in terms of water. Preferred alternative should be warm. But now the best way to do so is also you sip along. Don't gulp at a sitting, because in the short term you go for a short call and then now flush out everything, which now may make it not to be beneficial to your health in totality. And then of course also there is the aspect of exercise, so that now you fuel your vehicle, you drive. So equally you eat and exercise. Otherwise, if you don't, now this is the time also you find that you store the excess energy in the form of fat, and therefore affecting your overall health and nutrition status.
All right, thank you very much. We'll be sure to take that advice. It is vegetables and vegetables half of the plate to make sure we don't go wrong. Kaboror, I do have a question for you here. It comes from Elias Makori. He says he will want to know whether should we expect fast or slow times when competition resumes. Now that you will have a long break, you will be physically and mentally prepared despite the lack of competition. So maybe during the half marathon later in October, will we expect fast times or slower times from you?
I can say that it was really unfortunate that this virus came along. We were really preparing well and we were already on top of the shape. So we were ready for the competition anyway. And it was unfortunate that the virus came along and we had to break the camps and go home. So while at home, it's really a high time that one needs a lot of discipline, because you will be doing a lot of things by yourself. Like on my case, when the government announced that there is no movements, there is no training in groups. So I was thinking that maybe they are going to say, we don't want people running around. So I had to plan myself by getting myself a treadmill, because I really wanted to make sure that I continue training. So most of the things is that I'm doing alone at home, like exercise, training, following the program that I normally do. So it's not that I'm doing a lot of intense training, but I'm training to make sure that I keep fit and healthy. But I can say when the competition is resumed, we will get to come back stronger, because this is part of the challenge and we have accepted the challenge and we have took it as part to our next achievement. So let him expect the greatest results after the pandemic.
All right. Thank you so much. We will see what you will give us in October. Of course, keep your diet and nutrition on a high. Now that Mercy and Eric have been giving us very good advice, you and all the athletes. I'm going to read a few here. Dominic Ndieki says, good explanations from our nutritionists, that is Eric and Mercy. Kudos to the panelists. Indeed, we are learning a lot. Thank you very much for tuning in. We also have Rugoni again saying, this is maybe for Mercy and Eric, that chicken skin is the best part of the chicken. The fat around that skin. Does it affect the performance of the athlete basing that they are burning that with extreme exercise? I think Mercy, as we wind up, the boy is trying to justify why he needs to take the chicken skin, which you told us to avoid. Mercy?
Okay, fine. Thank you. I talked of the chicken skin, removing the chicken skin, because it's not a healthy fat. So the important thing is when you remove the skin and you don't put any fat, because it's a saturated fat. We call it saturated fats. So it will not affect the exercise bit of it, but we look at the health in general in terms of your cardio performance and also your heart performance, and generally your performance in general. Yes.
All right, and maybe as we wind up, maybe just a quick question here. Maybe Eric can answer this one. Please let us know a vegetarian athlete's diet, maybe just generally. how are vegetarians supposed to have their diets look like? And secondly, how important are supplements for athletes? I think this supplement question is keep on popping up, but I think Mercy has constantly told us, I think the use of good organic food is the way to go. I think that's a topic for another day. Let's just take the vegetarian athlete's diet. Eric?
Well, thank you for that. Now, concerning in the area of vegetarian diet, basically it means you eliminate all animal protein. So in this regard, like say in the context of dairy, you can substitute like say cow's milk with soy milk, or even there is coconut milk or related plant alternatives, or even there is also rice milk, which can come in now to substitute the dairy context. Now, for the proteins, in terms of the meats, entirely now you can do legumes. That is now the ndengu, the njahi, the mbosho, and related njugu, and that category, they come in now the protein source to accommodate that. But for the carbohydrates, they remain blanket. So usually you eliminate animal sources of protein and instead now substitute with the plant-based sources substitute to that effect.
All right, well put. Thank you so much, Eric. And maybe a final question for Mercy before we do our parting shots. Cameron, don't go yet. A question for Mercy. At what age should a child athlete start controlling their diet and need to start seeing a nutritionist? Mercy.
At what age? Please come up again.
At what age should a child athlete, like a young athlete, maybe an under 14, under 12, under 10, yes, maybe
yes.
Under 14, let's start from under 14 going below. At what age should they start controlling their diet and need to start seeing a nutritionist?
Okay, thank you for that question, whoever asked. Let's remember that these children are growing, they're still developing. So at age 14, this is a child who is still developing. So you will not restrict much in terms of the nutrients that they are taking, but probably unhealthy parts. They need to prepare the foods in a healthy way instead of taking like tea or with a lot of sugar. They need to tailor their sugar down. They need to tailor their fats. They need to tailor their eating their junk food and take a whole meal. So it is important so long as they are doing an extra exercise, and everyone needs a nutritionist for sure. Not only the athletes, but everyone needs a nutritionist for them to keep on checking how their status is. Thank you.
All right, good advice there from Mercy. I think if we were given a whole afternoon, we will still keep at it, talking about how healthy we need to eat. But unfortunately, time is out for us. But before we say goodbye, our parting shots, Cameron, what will you say you have learned from this 1 hour or so talk about nutritionists, and what should we expect from you later in the year when we resume competition?
Really a great session. I've learned a lot. And I also think that my fellow athletes and sportsmen and anybody in general, I've learned a lot from the nutrition that we have had. So it has really been a great session. Personally, I've learned a lot. I will get to adjust my diet program, what I normally do, where I lack and where I'm going okay. I've got to know. So I'm really grateful. And for sure, I think it will help some people a lot, and to sports people, it will help a lot. So I hope to benefit from this session in terms of nutrition. And for sure, when this virus goes away or pandemic, we hope to resume strongly, yeah.
All right, I'll be looking forward to see you winning maybe your 4th world title when we get to the World Half Marathon Championships later in the year, and all the best. Mercy and Eric, your parting shots. So start with Eric and then come back to Mercy.
Thank you very much. As in, I had raised my hand remembering that part of the question I hadn't finished answering concerning the supplement. Ideally, they are unadvisable for two reasons. One, their regulation is not below, I mean, is below par. So as in the certainty in terms of benefit is not really certain in the market. Then, so which means they tend to like exploit the perception around it that is industry driven to assure as though now it may optimize performance. And then number two, you see, if you take supplements yet now in controlled doses minus, I mean, maybe a health provider's input, usually there is the risk to your liver and also kidney compromise, which also now may tend to derail your performance long term. But now to my parting shot, ideally healthy eating is mandatory to all of us, whether in training or maybe in COVID context or whatever circumstance, which therefore means having, be it family or personal initiative to resolve to eat healthy to prevent disease is very vital. So that now, why to be like say in the context of even athletes, beyond sporting, you need life. And therefore it wouldn't be of any necessity that you use your proceeds out of sporting to treat disease. Thank you.
Wow, very strong parting shot there. And Mercy, maybe we can beat that parting shot from Eric.
Much, I would say that let food be thy medicine for now. Let's take healthy foods so that, as Erica said, you don't use your profits in terms of from sporting world. And again, we are told to keep social distancing, but I'm urging each and everyone not to distance themselves socially. Let's get in touch with our families, our friends, our teammates that we are working with in terms of those are training, especially the athletes, so that by the end of it, we have good mental health. Thank you.
Thank you very much, even for every person that has been watching. Even Carol Nyadierot has said it has been an amazing session. She says thank you for this great session. And every person who has tuned in live on Zoom or on Facebook Live, thank you very much for joining us today. I have been your moderator, Wanjuko Mwenda. And on behalf of Jeffrey Kamoror, Elizabeth, and Diego Eric Kihugwa, as well as Mercy, we say thank you so much for joining us today, and tune in next Thursday for another hot topic from the National Olympic Committee of Kenya online conferences. Have a good evening.